Journalism is our best effort to know and understand the truth so that we can communicate that to people, because everyone seeks knowledge. That is at the core of every human being. That's why the First Amendment is first. And our responsibility is to get as close to the whole truth as possible. So picking and choosing pieces of the truth, sometimes blowing that out of proportion to be misleading or to be deceptive, or leaving out pieces of the truth that are inconvenient because they don't fit a predetermined narrative or agenda. None of that is journalism. And what people do today too often is they confuse journalism with activism. And for a lot of young kids coming out of colleges, that's not surprising because they train them to be activists. They don't train them to be journalists. And so for me, in its purest form, journalism is our responsibility to know and understand the truth and to do our very best to capture the whole truth. And that doesn't mean you can give every detail, but what it means is that if you have to know every detail so that you can make an honest, and it is subjective, assessment based on the whole truth and the facts and the evidence, and you can share that so that people can know things that are beyond their reach, so that we can make good decisions based on good information and the whole truth.
Do you think that a misunderstanding of that subjectivity and an emphasis on not being biased has led to those lies?
No.
In journalism, where
No.
in other words,
No,
where it
I'm
crosses
just going
over
to save
into
you.
propaganda.
Don't bother to elaborate on the question. I'm just going to save you the trouble. No, I mean, what has happened is that we're being manipulated, and all of us have been manipulated for a very long time. Even I was manipulated and used time and time again throughout my career. I just didn't know it, and the reality is, what has happened is that we lived in a world where journalism was biased, but at least because we're all biased and we make subjective decisions all the time, but there was at least an effort to try to be unbiased. There was at least, it wasn't a balanced and it wasn't a good enough effort to incorporate all perspectives, but at least existed as the standard. And we were not aware. I say we as in I was at 60 Minutes, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, I worked at all those places. We were not aware of the degree of our own bias. In fact, my old boss at 60 Minutes said to me that his greatest achievement at that show was making us aware of our own bias. And it was undervalued by everyone, except who? Except the audience. Yeah. Because people know. So for a long time, people in this country have had respect for the media, but they've felt alienated from it. That's why Roger Ailes was so successful with Fox, because people who were pro-life weren't fairly represented in the rest of the media. And so what has happened to us now, though, is we've abandoned the standards and the principles of real journalism. We don't even attempt to make that. And that can happen on both sides. It can happen on the left and on the right. On the right, it happens for different reasons, because you have people rising up on the right to take back some of this ground. Journalism in the First Amendment doesn't belong to a bunch of corporations. It belongs to all the people. It doesn't belong to one group of people. It doesn't belong to only the people who think this way or only the people with this skin color. It belongs to all of us, we the people. And so people are trying to take that back. And in trying to take it back, they're trying to correct what they see as an imbalance. And unfortunately, what happens in the midst of all of this is that the principles and the standards get lost. The one side that's most powerful, they want it to get lost. So they're using the New York Times and the Washington Post and the networks and everything to do their bidding, encouraging these journalists, enticing them, incentivizing them, just like doctors and hospitals are incentivized to let patients die of COVID because they get money out of it. Well, it's the same way that journalists are incentivized to lie, because you lie about Russia collusion and you get a Pulitzer Prize, the prize in journalism. So they're incentivizing journalists. Plus, there's other factors that go into it. Their political operatives have infiltrated, and they have all these institutions, and they have all this money that is behind these henchmen like Media Matters for America. They'll tell you it's a liberal media watchdog. I'll stop your timer for you. They'll tell you that Media Matters for America is a liberal media watchdog. No, they're not. They're a well-funded propaganda organization that is an assassin. It's a team of assassins.
Yeah, they work on
They go out to just kill people, kill their careers, kill their lives, kill their ability to be employed anywhere, kill the truth, kill real journalism, kill independent thought. I mean, that's what they really are. And they've extremely well-funded and backed by extraordinarily powerful people. And so these people have taken over our media institutions, but what the journalists don't realize is that they have no intention of seeing the New York Times survive this. They want the New York Times gone, because what replaces it? It's like people say, oh, Christianity is terrible. What replaces it?
Well, that's something that's really interesting, because that leads into this other kind of concept that I'm working on, which is that have we reached the peak of Western civilization?
Bullshit.
Is it downhill from here, or are we still ascending?
Come on. That so that just shows you how well the propaganda works. That you would even ask me that question, because do you feel like America has peaked? Do you feel like this country is no longer capable of leading? Do you feel like this country cannot lead in innovation, in creativity, in arts, in science? Of course not. Of course it can. But we've been slowly indoctrinated into believing every civilization has its peak. Oh, we've peaked as Western civilization. No, that's propaganda. And it's manipulated, and it's by design. Because if we believe it, we're doing the job for them. That's why the information war is so important. I mean, there's nothing about this country that says it has to go the way of other civilizations. There's nothing about this country that says that it's peaked and that it's over. There's nothing about it. I mean, you could say, oh, well, look at the rates of education, all this. They've done that. Even that is by design. It's not like there aren't people in America who can still teach to the same standard as before. That's a choice that we've made. We've sacrificed the standard of our education for indoctrination in the schools. We've sacrificed the standards of medicine for political medicine, right? We've sacrificed the standards of journalism. These are choices that we made. We don't have to make those choices. Many of those choices were made for us. And that's why it's incumbent on each and every one of us to stand up and say, no, I don't make that choice. Just because you're some deluded psychopath who wants to think there's more than two genders doesn't mean I have to go along with it. And I don't care one bit. You want to come for me? Come for me. You want to come for me? Go ahead. Go ahead. Because we're in the end game now. And people don't realize, why are the farmers protesting in Holland? Why are you not seeing that anywhere on the news? Because they're implementing globalist policies. So while half the world is arguing that globalization and one world order and all this stuff is a conspiracy, pushed by far-right lunatics, the rest of the world is busy implementing those policies. We don't have an American border policy. We don't have something sanctioned by Congress that the legislators voted on, that the people voted on. We have the United Nations 2018 Global Compact on Migration. That's what's being implemented. And it means the end of sovereignty. It means the end of citizenship. It means the end of everything that's American. Now, you will go along with that if you believe that Judeo-Christian civilization has had its time. It's peaked, and this is inevitable. They count on your surrender, because they cannot do it any other way. Because every single thing they're doing is based on lies. It's nothing but lies. There is no God. Not true, right? Freedom doesn't exist. It's just a series of scientific probabilities. Not true. Most people support what's happening. Not true. Meat is bad for you. It's going to kill you. Really? So when the earth was created and human beings have existed on meat from the beginning of time, that now suddenly is a poison? Oh, wait, let me see. So what you are going to make out of chemicals in a factory, that's better for me. No. I mean, people see through all of this. Wait, let me see. A vaccine or experimental treatment that isn't going to prevent you getting COVID and isn't going to prevent you dying and isn't going to prevent you going into hospital is better for you than not taking it at all. Come on. It's better for you than the natural immunity. It's a joke. What we're being asked to believe is a joke, and it's as ridiculous as you saying, have we reached the end of civilization? And I'm being hard on you.
No.
I want you to realize.
That's why I asked the question.
I want people to realize how deeply the indoctrination goes inside all of us.
Sure.
That's what I want you to realize, is that even those basic fundamental tenets that we're supposed to believe, that China is so much better at us than everything. Really? They stole everything from us.
They're totalitarian.
With our permission.
Horrible.
We enabled it.
Yeah.
But think about that. We create We're not the only people, but we are creators. People who counterfeit are fakers. So there's nothing real about the illusion that China is built on. Well, sure they have, more people, and they have no rights, and so they can do whatever they like and turn that to their advantage economically. But that doesn't mean, so what? So China's rising to take its place? Who is, if we have peaked, who hasn't? France? No, I don't think so. Britain? No. India? So who's peaked? Who hasn't peaked? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's a confluence between cultures for sure, which is why we're in this situation where it's a war. And that's
Actually, it's not a confluence between cultures. It's not even remotely a confluence between cultures. It's a small group of people. It's a cult. It is a cult of narcissistic egomaniacs who think they can become gods. That's what it is.
Really?
And by the way, anytime you look at society that's had gods, Roman gods, Greek gods, it's a small number of people. So the reason that they don't want a lot of people around, the reason they don't want a huge population, is that they want it all for themselves. Right. So what do they need human beings for? If you listen to Yuval Noah Harari, don't take my word for it, he says we're on the brink of having divine power. What does Elon Musk say as a transhumanist? He says we can stop aging. What's the secret to stopping aging? Oh, the blood of young people. They say that. The blood of young people reverses aging. But if you say, oh, they're bleeding out people, they're kidnapping children, they're taking their blood, then you're a nut. Yeah. Then you're insane. Can I say that that's what's happening? I don't have proof of it. I certainly would like to know, but I don't have proof.
Well, there's stuff even widely reported in mainstream media where
that
they talk
blood
about
is the
that.
secret. Yeah, so where do you get the blood of young people?
So again, exactly, where do you get that?
Are you harvesting it? Are you getting it from the Red Cross, from their blood clinics? Are there legitimate sources of blood and illegitimate? I mean, there's legitimate and illegitimate sources of everything on the planet. So why not that? I mean, if you just follow it logically, but they don't want you to follow it logically. Don't believe your lion eyes. Don't believe what's right in front of you. Listen to what we tell you. So the same people who want to be organic because it's better for you to be organic, they're okay with killing off all the animals and eating chemicals out of a factory in a protein bar or Beyond Meat. That isn't even, they don't even know what's in it. Yeah. They're completely fine with that. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Are you organic and you believe in nature and things being natural, or do you are you gonna now decide that meat is bad for me and I'm gonna rather eat chemicals? Good luck. Oh, and insects. By the way, you can have the insects. You can shove them where the sun don't shine.
Grasshoppers aren't bad.
Not in my lifetime.
Let her loose, Sean. We promised 5 minutes.
I know. Well, I'm gonna say one more thing. I gotta get your opinion on it. Which is, you obviously have a very good understanding of psychological operations, the way the media uses it, the way it all twists.
I'm a woman.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's your first advantage in any situation.
I started ahead of you.
I know. Hey, I'm catching up all the time. I'm catching up. But what is your opinion of January 6th?
It was an operation. It was obvious. It was a massive deep state operation, similar to the one that was carried out against Nick Sandmann at the Lincoln Memorial and probably Charlottesville. And I haven't had time to really work on the Charlottesville stuff as I would like, so I can't speak in detail on that. But it's very obvious that January 6th was a setup run by Mitch McConnell and people on the right as much as people on the left.
Absolutely.
And that it was designed because there's one thing that this cult fears more than anything else on earth, and that's you. It's the people. It's the power of the people. And if anyone hasn't seen the video of the people in Sri Lanka rising up and taking their country back, why are they rising up? Because more than a year ago, Sri Lanka agreed to the World Economics Forum's food program and energy programs, and they banned commercial fertilizers because they're bad for the world. And a year later, they had no food. So they had a perfect ESG score, this corporate governance score that puts us totally in harmony with the environment, and except our people are dying. That's what they want. They want your people to die. They want you to die. And they want you to die lonely and isolated, believing that civilization is over and we just can't get along and there's no hope. And it's not true. None of it is true. And the one thing I will say to you that you have to remember, what's at the source of it all? Creation is at the source of it all. Because how are we on the verge of becoming gods? Because they're hacking into DNA. They're doing it with GMO seeds, changing the DNA of the planet, changing the DNA of the environment, with the vaccines changing the DNA of people and human beings. And they're doing it because what they can do is they can replicate anything. They can create artificial intelligence. But what can they not create?
The universe.
Life. They don't create life. They need your organs because they're going to connect to computers and their brains are going to go way ahead. They need your blood of young people because they want to stay everlasting young, because the body is not going to keep up with the brain for as long as they intend to be alive and to be around. Why do you think, people in this country, wealthy families like the Pritzker family, who are so involved in transgender surgeries and medical interventions and so on, why are they funding experiments where they're putting a womb into the body of a man? Because they want us just to be incubators. We're just commodities. They'll take organs from one, they'll take blood from another, they'll take, and so on, right? And from others, they'll need labor, because the machines die and they don't regenerate. But we regenerate, because there is only one real creator, and that is God. And this is a war on God. And the more pain they can inflict on the people of God, the greater the victory that they feel over him.